pissing, I'm a who that.
I'm a who that.
Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like pissing, I'm a who that.
I'm a who that.
Sports coma, this is where we do that.
Where we do that.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees are Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. We have intense, entertaining, educate, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fan. Appreciate you guys for being in this episode of the Coma. Please feel free to smash upon the like button, the subscribe button, the bell, and hit the share button and share the show on your social media feed with other black and gold diehards across the land. Much love to the fam. Big ups to everybody. Hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your week, and I'm hoping you guys are having a successful start to your week. I hope you had a pretty fantastic weekend as well coming into this thing. So shout out to the faithful, shout out to the diehards of the Coma, the kings and queens. We up in this thing. This one, as we know, the training camp, the Saints mini camp is coming up this week here, and we'll have some looking at the black and gold squad once again between the 13th and the 15th coming up. So we'll have a couple of days, man, to be able to look at our squad once again to see what's going on before they dip off, and then we don't see them till later on. So shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all being up in here as we're going to go and cover a article from NOLA.com. A combo of writers that did a pretty good article covering the Saints mini camp. They asked some questions as well, and we're going to cover it in this installment of the Coma. So let's get going, fam, as we started off, and this is something, the commentary from those writers that said, based on what they liked about what they've been seeing so far and what concerns them and what they're looking for from Saints minicamp. So let's take a look at our preview. As you can see, a picture, a good photo of current quarterback, $150 million man Derek Carr, and can't guard Mike back out there on the field. And these two guys will be very important to the success of the Saints, because the offense has to lead the team this year. It can't be the other way around. What the defense is doing, that was a failed experiment. And I really think that the offense will definitely take off. I don't know if Mike plays the entire season. Now, my crystal ball is not that in depth, but I do believe he plays more than 10 games of this season. And to me, if we can get between 10 to 16 games from Mike, I'm good with that. And plus, whatever hopes for a postseason run, you're going to need him. So, and like I said, when he's out there, he's phenomenal, man. Remember the Atlanta Falcons game the last time we seen him with the 3 touchdowns? When he's out there, he's hard to stop. And you can imagine the combination between Carr and him. And then really what I'm excited about as well, potentially, is a healthy Mike Thomas with a Chris Olave and Derek Carr pairing. That would be really exciting too, because and I made mention of this, and we bring these narratives and we talk about this thing from a diehard black and gold perspective. And if you look at the sum total of Michael Thomas's career up to this point, has he ever had a solid complement wide receiver who can play off of him and he can play off of them? Pretty much a lot of what Mike Thomas was doing, he was doing pretty much by himself. He didn't really have a true complement wide receiver next to him. And that's saying a lot for a guy that's pretty much a possession guy. Mike is not a 40-40 guy and all this kind of stuff. He's not a very fast guy, but he's physical, he's strong, he's smart, and he's fundamental. The only thing he isn't is he's been available. So hopefully we can shift gears on that and get to what it is. So having Olave and Michael Thomas together, what does that look like? Not to mention before you start throwing all the other key people around him. So this is going to be very exciting. And I know Carr is kind of revving up, looking at what's going on here. So anyway, let's jump into the article. Shout out to NOLA.com. They say the Saints conclude their offseason program next week with the 3 mandatory minicamp practices at the team's facility in Metairie, Louisiana. It will be the first minicamp for the newcomers like Derek Carr, Jamaal Williams, and Bryan Bresee, and the first time the entire roster is together this offseason. Very happy to see that as well. So let's continue to get up in this thing. And as you see, say in preparation for the workouts, this coverage team, the writers, they got together and they had a few things that they wanted to discuss. So let's get into a few of those things that they were talking about. And the first thing is, what is the biggest surprise of the offseason workouts? One of the reporters said, can't guard Mike's return. I did not expect for him to show up and, at any of the voluntary organized teams activities. The media hadn't seen him since September. And honestly, they were still a little surprised that he's still with the Saints. And maybe it's because I didn't cover the team in 2019 when Thomas broke the single season receptions mark with 149 at 1725 and 9 touchdowns. Obviously, that's impressive. Or maybe it's because he has only played 10 games over the last 3 seasons because of injuries. Obviously, that's not impressive. Thomas did a strong opening 3 games in 2022 before his injury. Scoring 3 touchdowns is a positive for the Saints. He's back already at least some capacity. So I have to give it to the reporter, Taryn Wack, that was a nice surprise to see Michael Thomas there, decked down in the unis, All right, Mr. Walker said the biggest surprise was seeing rookie running back Kendre Miller in person for the first time. If someone told you to go into a lab and create a running back, Miller's probably what the results of the experiment will look like. Listed at 6 feet 210. My best guess is he's all of 220, and all muscle. He actually been able to do much in practice because he's recovering from a knee injury suffered in the college football playoff semifinal against Michigan. But he passes the eye test. You can't help but to be eager to see what he can do once he gets healthy. On draft night, Dennis Allen had to say this about Miller. He runs with violence. That's not hard to believe. Absolutely. And I agree here because if you look at the tape on Kendre Miller, he's a guy that is serious. He's serious, very serious. Now, I was kind of upset during the draft process because obviously I wanted, local product from Ponchatoula and Tulane, a star running back, Tajay Spears, who eventually got drafted by the Titans. I wanted him to be here for obvious reasons. But when I had the opportunity to do some film work and study on Kendre Miller, we did that on TSC Q&A Live Patreon for the family members. A lot of great things opened up about Kendre Miller. The fact that his vision and he has an awareness bubble around him where he's not even looking behind him, but he's feeling his way, just great instincts on the field, feeling his way around the field from like an energy standpoint. I can't know how, but you'll see runs where he would be running and he'll stop and break it down and then duck and get small and let a guy fly over his head from behind like he knew the guy was there the whole time. It's really strange how intuitive this guy is. Not only does he run with power and physicality, he uses a stiff arm, but he also at times can either run through you or around you. He has the speed, and he does, even though they didn't use him a lot of catching the ball out the backfield. There was footage with him catching screens, him being patient, working behind his blockers, and then at the appropriate time, getting from behind a blocker to generate even more yards. The fact that he falls forward majority of the plays, and the fact that he is a insurance policy for Elvin Kamara this year and into the future. The Kendre Miller pick was a very solid pick, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. All right, Jeff Duncan says, I've been surprised how good Carr has been. I just don't mean as good as player on the field, where his arm strength, accuracy, and command of the huddle of open eyes. He's impressed me with his leadership skill and presence and clearly understands his role as a franchise quarterback. Yeah, and this is true. If you watch, and we had an opportunity to play several of Derek Carr's interviews over the last several weeks, and just getting inside his psyche, after all of the, rigmarole about finally being here and the food and all this kind of stuff. Fine, fine, fine. Okay, you like the food. Everybody likes the food, so cool. We get that. Now let's talk football here. What are you going to do here that you didn't do with the Raiders? That type of stuff. And then he started to kind of delve and throw out all of this stuff about Michael Thomas. The last batch of interviews we listened to, how he was just big up in Mike and how Michael Thomas was instrumental in recruiting him to the Saints and how excited Michael Thomas was for him to be here. So, you look at that, and then the fact that he definitely has leadership abilities. You're getting a peek inside of his character as a person. You can see that he's a very good guy, very upstanding guy, very cordial guy, and not a BS guy or one of these numbskull quarterbacks or a diva type. He's a hardworking blue collar type of a quarterback that takes insight from his players and his coaches and whatnot. And he has a wide open approach in terms of wanting to learn the offense and have the most success that he's possibly can have. And listen, I cannot dispute that. I think Carr has been wonderful, absolutely wonderful so far, especially with a lot of the things that he's been talking about during these interviews and these training sessions. All right, the next one is, what has been your most positive takeaway from the workouts? Mr. Wax says Carr's adjustment within just 10 OTA workouts, the quarterback seems to have quickly settled into the running offense. He felt more comfortable in the final week, and the Saints coach Dennis Allen thought Carr looked more comfortable. Carr always was talking to someone, too, whether it be a coach or a teammate. He took feedback, cracked jokes. He bonded. Execution during the regular season is what really matters to work, but as most, but right now his effort and desire are obvious, all around positive feedback, which is stellar. And that's true. You've seen him, pointing and talking to people, trying to figure that out. And that's something that is a very good skill, because over his time with the Raiders, he had 5 offensive coordinators. I talk about that a lot, because if you take the 5 coordinators that he's had, and then you put his statistics next to the 5 years and with he played with those different coordinators, you can see that he was still successful. He was very successful. Now, some years a little bit more productive than others, but he still had a degree of success that we would like to have here, because Carr is, and I've said this before, Carr is not the savior for the Saints. Jameis wasn't the savior for the Saints. Jameis came here to build himself back up after what happened with him in Tampa Bay, and Carr was basically cast away. He was benched after a Pro Bowl season with the Raiders, so he wasn't really sought out after, out there like the Saints was kind of, the only team that was really serious at him. He had a few people talk to him, but in the end, you kind of got the feeling that the Saints, they wanted him the whole offseason. So, it wasn't like, he was going to go anywhere else. He was weighing his options. So he still, at the end of the day, got what he wanted the most. He got his money. Now it's time for him to step up and show. So yes, the question is, how fast does he adjust to what the Saints want him to do? And it's very simple. It's all a language thing, because he's familiar with the West Coast style of offense. He just needs to get used to the language of what's going on, what this is versus what that is. And that's what Gruden came in to kind of explain to him to a degree. Hey, man, this is the same thing. It's just this. This is this, and then this is called that. This is this, and this is called. Oh, okay, I got it. So and that's basically what it is. And we've heard Pete Carmichael talk about giving Carr plays that he himself is comfortable with. That will lead to more success too. So anyway, all right, Mr. Walker says the improvement of Olave and Rashid, the 2 second-year receivers, both from San Diego, had rock solid rookie seasons. Been quite clear in practice that they are not satisfied with what they did in year 1. Both have made big plays in practice and look to make great strides in their second season. It's the type of hunger you want to see in young players who aren't satisfied or where they are. Chris Olave was just excellent last year. Rashid Shaheed was a big surprise for the Saints. A lot of injury happened. Jarvis Landry wasn't there. Rashid Shaheed seized the day, stepped up. Deontay Harris Hardy was banged up, right? And then Rashid Shaheed stepped in there and he made a point. Now, often I talked about how much better Rashid Shaheed's route running was. And then remember the interview we played here from Michael Thomas, when Michael Thomas said he took Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave under his wing. And I was like, that's explained why that route running looks a lot better. So we have these two phenomenal speedsters who do a little bit of everything, and a healthy Mike Thomas and everything else. You got to be kind of, looking at this thing and feeling pretty good. All right. Mr. Duncan says the attitude and buy-in from the players and coaches have been impressive. There's a real positive vibe around the team. The acquisition of Carr seems to have lifted everyone's spirits. And that's just a lot of positive energy around the team right now. Teams are usually optimistic at this time of the year, but the overall enthusiasm and up and down rosters noticeable. That's a positive sign for Dennis Allen in the second year. So, yeah, it is a good vibe. If you look at the players, everybody's excited about this season. They really are. Well, they got reason to be excited. One of the biggest question marks that we've seen happen with the Saints this past, in the past last year was the injuries to the quarterback room, and then the decisions behind the quarterback room wasn't all positive. It didn't lead to success. We had a stuck in the mud offense most nights. They couldn't score. They couldn't get off the snide. There was no leadership there. They were just going through the motions, and the defense had too much on its plate. It had to carry the luggage, the water, whatever you want to call it, for both the offense. The special teams wasn't handling their business either. So it was just really one aspect of the team trying to do everything. And with the Saints, offense needs to step up and handle the business. Carr knows that he has to lead this offense, along with the wide receivers, the running backs, and everybody else, into, they have to be the lead unit. They have to put up, points. They have to show that they're an explosive offense again. And I really do think that they are. The Saints have done a phenomenal job of adding talent along with what we had from last year, along with Carr and Carr's leadership. And the greatest thing I like about him is his ability to throw the deep ball. I've stated this countless times because that represents explosive plays. You have explosive wide receivers that can get downfield and a quarterback that's accurate enough to hit them downfield, which would open up space underneath, so we can use our satellite backs and our running backs that work in space. They can't clutter up the line of scrimmage and play us for the run. They have to respect the pass. That changes everything. So, I'm just excited about that. And that's the energy you see. You see guys like Michael Thomas out there. You got to be excited about the energy that's out there. The only question is, with Dennis Allen, who never won anything at a head coach level, is this could be the year that he finally breaks through. It could be. This is kind of seeming that it will be. So hopefully we can get there. And I think we can. All right, next question. What's the biggest concern? All right, the reporter says linebacker room. I agree. Caden Ellis departed to the Falcons. I expect the Saints to draft a high potential rookie or sign a well-known veteran to fill the void. Neither happened so far. Demario Davis and Pete Werner handle the starting roles, but what if one gets injured, like Warner did last year? There's not a big name to step up if needed. Granted, Ellis wasn't considered a big name when he was called upon last season, so the Saints very well may have another trick up their sleeve, but still, linebacker was the only position that was truly addressed, wasn't truly addressed this offseason. And I agree with the reporter here, man, to speak about it, because we often talk about the fact that I really do think that there are a few needs, positions that the Saints should address before we get to the big camp. And I still feel that we need a veteran interior, another veteran interior defensive tackle or a nose tackle, a veteran, not somebody that's a practice squad player or a player that don't have much pro experience. We need a veteran guy, either a nose tackle, preferably a nose tackle, or a defensive tackle with some experience that can come in and help the Saints, because in this kind of look, it depends. And this is a big question depending on where does Tanu Passanio play. Because if Passanio is a guy that they say, okay, listen, we drafted in the second round Isaiah Foskey. We have Carl Granderson and Peyton Turner here. We like these guys. Tanu Passanio obviously is not going to be battling those guys for the end position. So is this finally the year where he slides and played the majority of his time as a defensive tackle. He's 6'7", 300 plus pounds. Why would you not have a 6'7", 300 plus pound defensive tackle on the inside of your defensive line that bats down balls at the line of scrimmage? So do they finally go and say, we're going to switch you to more inside than outside? That's a big question. If not, if they intend to keep him playing more outside than inside, then I still say go get that nose tackle, because if guys start getting banged up, you get real light real quick in the interior of the defensive line. So I still say we need another defensive tackle, a veteran or a nose tackle, to help out the interior defensive line. The linebacker position, the guy is absolutely right on, absolutely spot on. If something is not like Demario Davis gets hurt, because he rarely does, because he knows the line where to play smart and to play aggressive. He knows the line. That's why he rarely gets hurt. So does Cam. I talked about that. Peyton Turner doesn't know that line. That's why he keeps getting banged up year after year, and he misses time. Now, last year he was on his way to a hell of a year before he got, banged up pretty good with the injury situation. But being that that Peyton Turner is nothing new, that he does have injuries that take him off the field for multiple games. Zach Bowen is the guy that's behind him. Now, he's a guy that the Saints had with the third-round pick. Does Zach Bowen finally make a Caden Ellis move? Now, I remember Caden was a seventh-round selection that was able to sneak in on his final year and make a payday. Now, Caden Ellis played. Now, a big thing there is Caden Ellis was familiar with the defense. He kind of earned his bones on special teams. That's something that Zach Bowen was trying to do, but, not really there. But now that Caden's gone, Zach Bowen, with that third-round draft pick status, he's the next guy up right there, and he is in a contract years as well. So the Saints are going to have faith. Look like they're going to have faith with this guy. But a guy like Quan Alexander make all the sense in the world if you the Saints and you're looking for a veteran guy to come in. He knows, he's familiar with what you're doing. He's a guy that knows a lot of the teammates there, and he won't cost you a lot of money. He played all of the games last year for the Jets, and he's a guy that can come here. He's a free agent, and he's a guy that can come in and help you in terms of depth. So when he left the first time around, they offered him to stay here to be a backup for Pete Werner. Now, he should have took that role, because he probably earned himself some money had he did that, because the thing is, when Pete Werner got banged up both years, he would have felt admirably. So, but it is what it is. He made 1.2, I think it was, last year with the Jets. That ain't nothing the Saints can't afford, to pay the man, so I think that's a good move. All right, on to the next one. It's probably way too early to call it a concern, but seeing center Eric McCoy as the only starting offensive lineman at camp was an idea, especially for a team breaking in a new starting quarterback this season. Ramczyk, Pete, and Kelvin Throckmorton all chose to skip the voluntary OTAs. Cesar Ruiz and backup tackle Trevor Penning are still recovering from injuries. The silver lining, and that is some of the younger guys are getting some work. But a key to the Saints offense will be how the O-line gels this season. That gelling starts in the offseason with the mandatory minicamp coming this week. Ramczyk, Pete, Throckmorton should be back in the mix. Okay, thank you for that. All right, and then, of course, Duncan says there is nothing to do with the workout, so I'm probably cheating with the answer, but Kamara looming court date is obviously a major concern. It seems like he'll face some kind of league discipline or as a result of legal issues. The Saints bolstering the running back room with Jamaal Williams and drafting Kendre Miller this offseason, but it's a stretch to think that either of those guys will be able to replace Kamara's all-around playmaking ability. Kamara arguably is the biggest star in the Saints, and the teams have to account for him all over the field. Absolutely agree with Jeff Duncan on this one. Absolutely. Alvin Kamara, and very few players that you're going to find in the NFL that'll be able to do everything Alvin Kamara does. And I think last year the Saints severely underutilized Alvin Kamara, and I'm hoping in this Saints offense that he doesn't get lost. And I know that sounds crazy, but once he comes through his legal issues, hopefully the Saints can find a way to use Alvin Kamara on the field often, in terms of even decoying him, not even putting him out there, not even giving him a ball, lining him up at the wide receiver, spreading him out, whatever you got to do, to create mismatches with their defense and to kind of decoy people to Kamara. You need to do that. And I think that kind of ties into the Saints kind of having more of imagination on how to use him. So anyway, let's move to the next question. Which player or aspect of the team will you be focused on for minicamp? All right. The first writer says the offensive line. Well, McCoy was the only starter who was active during OTAs. Ruiz and Penning were present but inactive because of lingering foot injury rehab responsibilities. Pete and Ramczyk never showed. Apparently, the Saints' fourth-round pick, Nick Saldiveri, injured his calf, so he was sidelined for the OTAs too. And there are still options given the Saints' depth at the position, so it'll be interesting to see who lines up where once all the bodies are present. There's plenty of time left until the regular season begins, but it's important that the offensive line is healthy this season to protect its new quarterback. Absolutely. Absolutely. Next writer says the running backs, with Kamara probably facing a suspension at some point. I'm interested to see how the team divides the reps among Kamara, free agent signing Jamaal Williams, and rookie draft pick Kendre Miller. Will the Saints practice? Will the Saints practice as if Kamara will be there the whole season, or will the Williams and Miller get more reps than usual since they will be counting on Kamara's inevitable absence? Also, I could be curious to see whether Miller is a guy who could step in and make an impact, an immediate impact, much like Kamara did as a rookie in 2017. That's a great commentary. That's great commentary right there. Great open thought thinking right there. Very forward and open thinking right there. Looking at what the Saints are dealing with. Now, we know that it's only one Alvin Kamara. But, when you bring Jamaal Williams in here, Jamaal Williams is more than just a thumper back. He's, about 6 feet, 6 feet or so, 6 feet, 6'1", about 220 pounds. He has speed and power, and he is a very awesome running back. He's, it's just, if you're not used to watching him, has great vision. It's an emotional runner, like he's charged. It's difficult to bring him down, catch the ball out the backfield. He's not Alvin Kamara, but he is really good. 17 rushing touchdowns. He has a gift. Like if you're in a red zone with him and you're around the 5-yard line, he's going to get in that end zone. He's going to find the right hole to hit to get in that end zone. The guy has terrific vision. And Kendre Miller is another running back with terrific vision. So if the Saints do need to go to, if Kamara gets suspended, and there's a very slim chance that he could beat this, very slim chance, but a chance nonetheless, right? So, there are other backs that you can, if the Saints going to have a third back, if Kamara's not available, and you have another running back there that you can bring in. They're both on the makings of north-south running backs. So you brutal backs that bash for yardage, so to speak. So that's a good point, thinking about how the Saints will look. If Kamara is there, I'm pretty sure the Saints will utilize Alvin Kamara and that, because even though they're prepared for what happened, if he's to miss time, there is a small percentage of a chance that he could beat this thing. So, all right. All right, then the third writer says, I'm still worried about the pass rush. We won't get a true feel for the part of the defense until fall camp when the pads go on and the contact drills start. The Saints tried to address this area by drafting Bryan Bresee and Isaiah Foskey. Both are unproven. Defensive tackles Kalen Saunders and Nathan Shepard are known more for their run defense than pass rush. So the pass rush remains a major question mark. If there's a weak link in the defense, it could be the ability to pressure the passer. So hopefully that's not the case, because if you look at the film study on all of those guys, the aforementioned guys, if we start with the defensive tackles, Bryan Bresee, Kalen Saunders, and Nate Shepard, these guys all do one thing very phenomenal. They are relentless interior defensive people. Now, I've seen them make sacks on the quarterback. They don't give up. A lot of times, most of them are double team. They're able to split the double team, or if they get walled off, they'll make a play by simply waiting to see what the quarterback do so they can bat the ball down. Or if the guy tries to scramble, they'll chase him down, and they're very athletic. They're very violent, and they are relentless. That's the three qualities that I see on our interior defensive linemen just by studying the film on each one of them. They're vicious. They're violent. They're they don't relent. They're unrelenting, all of them. And it's just like amazing to see the Saints put together this type of force. So, and of course, when you talk about the edge rusher, Isaiah Foskey, who has what I call the sack gene. He had 20 plus sacks in the 2 seasons that he was at Notre Dame. He took down Justin Tuck's record when Justin Tuck was there. And if we can have Isaiah Foskey to be anything like a Justin Tuck, I would be hellified happy with that. But he has the sack gene. He needs more passing moves. He needs to get stronger. He needs to put on some more weight. But I'm telling you, he's going to be somebody that really push Peyton Turner to do better, to represent and step up. Now you still have Carl Granderson there, but at the end of the day, what the Saints had like 40 sacks last year. I don't know if I think we'll get that this year. Again, my main focus for the Saints defense is protecting against quarterbacks that can improvise, guys that can create outside of the pocket. The Saints can't allow that to happen this year. Not only do they have guys that are known for pushing the interior offensive line, but now you got guys that can chase down quarterbacks who are attempting to extend the play. So we'll see how that goes. But that's a valid concern nonetheless, because pass rush will be the big thing for the Saints defense. We got to keep the pass rush on, and we got to stuff to run. That's the big thing. And of course, finally, the last concern here before we get out, what's the most important thing left for the Saints to accomplish before the start of training camp? One reporter says get healthy. Wide receiver Mike Thomas, running back Kendre Miller, offensive lineman Cesar Ruiz, Trevor Penning, and Nick Saldiveri. Those are names simply mentioned during the OTAs as still in recovery mode. Regardless, injuries really hindered the 2022 season. The second reporter says, I agree. Get healthy. They need to get guys such as Thomas and Ruiz on the field before the season starts. The sooner they can do that, the better this team could be in reaching its potential. And the third reporter says the offense needs to coalesce. Next week's minicamp will be the first time the key offensive players such as Elvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, Ryan Ramczyk, Andrews Pete will get a chance to work with Derek Carr. And we aren't expected to see Thomas, Ruiz, or Penning on the field until fall camp. So there's a lot of moving parts on offense that need to come together. So great commentary there, guys. Thank y'all for this fantastic article. And let me just say this, and to add to it, that's the offense is the major part. When you're talking about winning games in the NFL, we talk about, and I mentioned it early in the stream, we talk about having a leader at the quarterback position that can galvanize the offense, because the offense has to lead the Saints' entire team, and the defense follows suit. Special teams have to carry their own water as well. Everybody have to be a functional, successful entity for it to be totally successful, right? So, but the offensive line, just like we just talked about the defensive line, the offensive line, they made a conscious effort to keep the offensive line together, even when they approached Andrews Pete. A lot of people wanted Andrews Pete to be gone. The Saints reworked Andrews Pete's deal into a one-year deal to keep him here because they wanted to have a solid unit, a solid offensive line to protect Derek Carr coming up into the season. So having all of those guys together, you got Ramczyk, Ramczyk really needs to show us something this year. You got Trevor Penning that's going to be healthy. So we need both those two fantastic tackles to handle their business. We need our interior guards to step up and play. Cesar Ruiz was solid all last season. Let's see him build on that. McCoy is there, so the QB to quarterback exchange, the center to quarterback snap is something that we need to look at. And of course, the QB and the QB to the wide receiver position is a good exchange, but the center and QB snap situation, that's when it starts. When you see McCoy out there working with Carr and he's snapping the ball, getting that together, that's very pivotal. Also, him getting used to being behind the offensive line, that's big. And of course, the Saints fortified the offensive line by adding veterans and draft pick guys like Nick Saldiveri, and they have a few undrafted guys they brought in to kind of create some competition for the backup offensive line positions and depth. Trevor Penning and Ryan Ramczyk, you have Pete and Ruiz, and then McCoy at the center position. Very solid offensive line that can run and block. Penning gives you the attitude. The Saints offensive line needs to play with more attitude. And then, of course, James Hurst, the swing offensive lineman, can play tackle or guard. He's the first. And then you got Nick Saldiveri there, Storm Norton, and others that'll be making a push to make the active roster, as well. So the Saints have done a really good job all over the place in terms of the offense, but just adding talent everywhere, including the tight end room with the acquisitions of Foster Moreau, and Jesse James was added there to bring even more competition along with Tate. It's just phenomenal. All of the stuff that we had. I don't understand how people think they can compete with what the Saints are going to roll out. And I'll say this, and I'm going to say it again. The only thing stopping the Saints having success this year is the Saints imagination itself. So that'll cover the preview, man, the preview of this show. So that's coming up, man. So anyway, I'd like to give a shout out to you guys for being up in the stream. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. Let me know, family, how y'all feel about the 2023 camp situation. What are your concerns? Y'all let me know what y'all concerns are coming into the camp. What do you guys want to see? Do you kind of agree with the reporters or what they're reporting on? Is that something that you share, or is something that they didn't speak on, or perhaps I didn't speak on, that you guys want to be aware of in this upcoming minicamp? So with that being said, I'm going to get out on that. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. Also, check out our merch in the description section below, and go to the whothatdaily.com and sign up for our newsletter. We are there as well. And drop your email there as well. Sign up for the newsletter. There's a link in there. Go to whothatdaily.com. It's in the description in our link tree section. Go there and sign up, man, because you never know if you want to get in contact with the stream or whatnot. You're not getting your notification. Sign up there. It'll take care of it. So with that being said, I'm going to get out on that. Much love to the fam. We appreciate y'all and Who Dat Take.
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this, and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
whothatdaily.com. That's right, the whothatdaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, and even the top flight boxing news. So if you're a Who Dat and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, whothatdaily.com is your site. The whothatdaily.com for the sport Who Dat.